Yes, sir. Welcome in, everybody. It's Thursday. It's game day. The NFL season is here. Happy beginning to the NFL season for all those who celebrate. Certainly a happy day for Chiefs Kingdom. Well, I say certainly, maybe a happy day for Chiefs Kingdom as we wait on the playing status of Travis Kelce. We get an update from Chris Jones himself yesterday. So a lot to get to with the Chiefs game tonight. They open up the season against the Lions. We'll look at it from a betting perspective with Chelsea Messenger coming up, as well as the entire Week 1 slate. Looking forward to that. Tommy, over under 3 bets you have placed so far in total on the Chiefs game tonight. I'm over. It's too excited.
Yeah, I'm over on it too. I mean, it's one of those situations where you've waited for so long. You might go a little bit overboard in the amount of bets that you place. At least I have so far. I'm going to be into the live betting angle of it tonight. Man, I can't wait. It's so exciting.
And it's so hard, too, because the responsible thing to do is to wait on the status of Travis Kelce, but we can't do that, right? Like, there's no way. You've got all these bonuses up at FanDuel and DraftKings and MGM, and, those are the 3 I sort of rotate through, and it's like, okay, you're going to give me all these bonuses. Let's get after it. Let's go, and we'll talk about the game.
And really excited about it. This is the first year, Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here, Jad Chambers, is producing for us. This is the first year, Tommy, on my new schedule where, I'd get evenings off anyway. I get off work a little before 7. Normally for like Thursday night football, Monday night football, like I'm not home to watch those. So I'm interested in that too, like on a weeknight primetime game, what that's like. It's been a long time since I've been able to do that at home. So I'm looking forward to it. The Chiefs, of course, you'll hear over on KNSS. And we are excited, of course, to be the home of the Chiefs and all of those great and fun things. And the Lions, I know, I think you, Tommy, weren't on board totally with the Lions when they announced that matchup. I love it. I love that the Lions are getting the hype that they're getting, and they get this stage to try to go prove it. And, I really hope Travis Kelce can go at least in some capacity because you want to see the biggest players on the biggest stages. And this is one of the biggest stages of the NFL season, this opener. But, if he's not there, the Chiefs will have to adjust. So yesterday, we got the news that Travis Kelce was officially listed as questionable. I actually kind of thought that was good news, Tommy. He didn't practice yesterday. Of course he didn't practice. But, we got, his brother early in the day kind of talking about swelling and a pain thing. They easily could have listed him as doubtful, Tommy. They easily could have listed him as out. They didn't. They made it questionable, which gives me some hope that Kelce might be able to go, even if it's limited. That's still a big boon for the Chiefs. And it's Kelce, man. Guy hadn't missed a game since 2013 in the regular season. So I think if he can go, he's going to go. Like, I think he'll try to play and do all these things. And, who knows what happens with his knee. But I think, when you look back to 48 hours ago, this feels far less daunting than we all feared. And, hopefully it turns into some reps tonight, even if it's 10 plays, whatever it is. You hope it's something, but who knows?
Yeah, so Tom Pelissero reported this morning that the Chiefs are planning to put Travis Kelce through a workout this morning to see how the injured knee holds up. They're calling it a true game time decision, which really, even if it wasn't a true game time decision, the Chiefs aren't going to reveal that leading up to this game, right? I mean, like, there have been so many, thoughts about what's going to happen and how he's going to be able to go and what that's going to look like. There's no way that the Chiefs are going to tip their hand before the game. Even if he is available to go and be able to do what he does, they're not going to reveal that between now and the start of the game. So it looks like it's going to be a true game time decision. It wouldn't surprise me. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Travis Kelce in there a little bit, potentially as a decoy. Maybe they've got a set number of plays that they feel like he can participate in and be valuable in for the Kansas City offense. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on a pitch count if he's able to go.
It's kind of hard to be a decoy at tight end, though, don't you think? Because you're taking contact no matter what, right? Like if you're on the line, you're either blocking or you're running a route. So I think it might be trickier than if he was a receiver, saying you could spread him out wide just to draw coverage. I think it'll be hard for him to be a decoy if he's out there. I wonder. I think honestly, it would be like maybe a little less blocking than he would normally do, and you use him in passing situations where he's clearly going to be a pass option, right? But like, I wouldn't have him out there on a run play. And even if I'm tipping my hand a little bit to the defense, the Chiefs to me are going to run in the most obvious running situations, and that's probably they're probably not going to run it much more than that anyway. But yeah, there is some advantage to the Chiefs sort of holding this close to the vest, obviously, and making the Lions guess at whether you'll have Travis Kelce, because you're going to have to play defense differently whether Kelce's on the field or not. It's not like you can just play the same way.
And look, when I say decoy, I don't mean, going out there and just getting no attention, like physical attention or whatever. What I mean by that is he's going to attract defensive looks just by stepping out on the field, right? And so, if you can get some attention maybe from the secondary away from some of the wide receivers onto Travis Kelce, that might help out, the passing game a little bit. So I don't anticipate him having a big stat line. I don't anticipate him being out there for the lion's share of the plays. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's able to do all of that. But I do think that if they utilize him, they're going to utilize him in a limited capacity where it's going to help out the rest of the passing game. And it's going to be able to hopefully preserve him as we move forward week to week.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that he'll be okay. It gets into long term, right? Long term. Like I don't think this thing lingers probably more than this first game, honestly, but it might. And he's getting older, 34. We've never really worried about availability, even at his age, because he never misses games. Like that's one of the crazy things about the position he plays, the style that he plays, all these things that he's been so dadgum reliable. He missed like his whole rookie year, and then that's it, right? And it's been 10 years, been a decade now. And so, it's hard not to lean on the past to say, yeah, he'll be all right. So we'll see. We'll see if we get that workout in or any reports or anything leaking out. A gut feel, Tommy, on this stage, I think he'll play. I think he'll play because I think that's how he's wired. And, there's so much of that. And listen, everybody, that is a total guess, right? We don't, it's a physical issue. So who knows how his knee responds, but I just think that this is too big a moment and they need him. Look, this is a big game for the Chiefs. If we believe in the Chargers and we believe in, if not them, the entire AFC, all of these games matter, right? Like what do we think the total number of wins to get home field throughout the playoff is going to be this year? I think it's at absolute minimum 14.
Yeah, I was going to say 14 is the number that I've circled.
I think it might be 15.
Yeah.
By the way, like I think, and that's hard to imagine because the AFC is so deep, but one of these teams of the 9 that are capable in the AFC is just going to light it up. We know that's going to happen. It always does. So for the Chiefs, if that's the case, if it's 14 or 15, you've got 2 or 3 losses, right? In a 17-game season. You can't overlook the Lions. Not that they are. I mean, they're not even a touchdown favorite in this game, never have been. So it's a big spot, and they need Travis Kelce. And you know what, Tommy, too, the other part of it is, like, if this game was in week 12, you'd probably feel a little better about Kelce being out than if it's week 1, because we have to get, Mahomes some real action and reps with these young receivers. I'm very curious to see tonight. Like, this, this is a Sky Moore, you have this opportunity in this game to go, prove it a little bit. But Kadarius Toney's been limited, hasn't had a ton of time with Patrick Mahomes. It makes me wonder if, is this a Watson game just because he knows, Mahomes and him have played together so much? It's a little bit different that this is early in the year because Mahomes does need a little. We've seen it now. I think Sky Moore is the example last year of this. It takes a little time for receivers. Sky Moore said this all off season, by the way. It takes time to get used to playing in this offense with Patrick Mahomes. So the fact that it's early in the season, I think also matters a little bit too, and puts a little urgency on Kelce hopefully being able to go.
One thing to keep in mind is that Patrick Mahomes has been absolutely unbelievable in opening games throughout the course of his career as the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. From 2018 to 2022, he's thrown for over 1,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a passer rating of 136.9 in opening games for the 5 years that he's been the starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, we're entering into that, opening game where it really hasn't mattered who's been on the field around him. He's been absolutely dynamite in the first game of the regular season each and every year that he started for the team. Now, of course, you've got potentially Travis Kelce limited. You've got a young, unproven core of wide receivers. You've got a running game that I think maybe has some questions about durability and that sort of thing. All of that being said, though, there have always been questions going into every single year with every single team. You always wonder how things are going to play out. And the one thing that transcends all of that has been Patrick Mahomes. And so, we've seen that line move and it's kind of wobbled a little bit and, dropped 2 points with Travis Kelce's injury and all of that. Really, it didn't change my mind whatsoever that, the facts tell you that Patrick Mahomes plays incredible in the opening game of the regular season every single year.
Yeah, it does. And a big part of that over the years has been Travis Kelce. I mean, that's the thing. It'll be all right. They're going to be okay either way. I still like them either way. Ed Werder reporting this morning, the outlook isn't great, but Kelce is going to push to play. So that I just saw that on the bottom line. I'll have to look at that more official report. Let's take a look here from Ed Werder.
Yeah, another quote from Clark Hunt, the CEO of the Chiefs, saying that he wouldn't bet against Travis Kelce being on the field tonight.
Yeah. Oh, on Good Morning Football. Okay, I see that. Yeah. Look, it's Kelce. So I think he'll go. If he doesn't go or he does, we've seen the line, by the way, the line has moved back toward the Chiefs just a little bit. I think that tells us something, or it should tell us something as we look at that. Tommy, we got all kinds of stuff to come today. Let's continue with the Chiefs. We'll set you up for the show here, but let's continue with the Chiefs after we come back because Chris Jones was in the news yesterday. He was at a charity event and, sort of just faced the firing squad, right? So we want to talk about that a little bit. All kinds of good stuff. We've got Chelsea Messenger coming up this hour to talk bets. Here we go in the betting world. We've got Tim Fitzgerald to look ahead to K-State's game this weekend. Our K-State Insider coming in the second hour. Giveaways. We've got ICTI's Classic, the NHL preseason game giveaways, HTO giveaways. We've got movie ticket giveaways. And we're going to start right there with some movie tickets. We've got special advanced screening tickets to Expendables 4. That'll be Thursday, September 21st. You'll get a sneak preview at Boulevard Theaters in Town West. So action movie fans, here we go. Expendables 4, Thursday, September 21st. A sneak peek to our second caller right now. Jad will get you some tickets on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. The IHOP hotline brought to you by IHOP, where guests can enjoy 4 new sweet and savory biscuit options. Good luck on that giveaway. We'll have more coming. Chris Jones, the latest, right after this.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily here with you. Glad to be here. Tommy Castor alongside me here, Jacob Albracht. Tommy, it's football season. We're getting a lot of, probably more than I thought we would. Chiefs info, just, fast and furious coming at us yesterday. We got this Kelsey thing to watch now. And now we have Chris Jones talking yesterday with the media at a charity event. And he got up there and sort of answered questions. He's there for a charity event, but this is coming and he handled it well. He did a good job. Congratulations, by the way, to Michael for winning our movie tickets to go see Expendables 4 a day early before that comes out. By the way, you can watch us as well as listen to us here, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Tommy, Chris Jones yesterday basically said what you thought he'd say, but I thought the tone was important on a couple of different fronts. One, he reiterated, wants to be a Chiefs for life, sort of downplayed any animosity here. So, as far as like animosity to the Chiefs organization, I didn't get that vibe. He basically was equating this to like, hey, and he's smart for doing this. Like, imagine in your world, you're just asking for a raise. Like, that's it. Now, of course, we don't hold out from our jobs. Like, we don't get to do that. Like, I want a raise, and until you give me one, I'm not coming in. They'll be like, all right, see you later. You're fired. So it doesn't quite work like that. So it's not really apples and apples. But his point is he just wants a raise. The part, Tommy, that I thought there was a little contention was when he was asked about letting his team down, because there has been this, tone lately that Chris Jones is letting people down. I think that that's naturally coming from what you hear from Andy Reid. We heard Travis Kelce with like a personal plea. I think this has surprised a lot of people in the organization, and I think there may be some hurt feelings a little bit. I don't think Chris Jones is approaching it that way. Probably Brett Veach isn't approaching it that way, but it's hard not to imagine. So when he was asked about that, I thought you could clearly see that strike a chord and honestly upset Chris Jones just a little bit. In that he doesn't want to feel like he's letting his team down. He doesn't think he is. He said he thinks this holdout is less of a distraction than a hold in, which could be true. I'm not sure on that. But I think that part of it is what's bothering Chris Jones, is the fact that there is a perception that he's not there for his teammates when he's, you can't. Everyone says you got to separate the business side, but that's impossible to do. We can say that, but you can't do that.
Yeah, there is an undeniable and unavoidable PR component to anything like this whenever this happens. And when you can easily look at it from a negotiation point of view, his agents and the representatives from the Chiefs and all of that, having these negotiations, and who knows how contentious they've gotten, who knows exactly the ins and outs of all of that. That being said, though, there is that PR narrative to it where, Chris Jones wants it to be known that he believes that this is just him asking for a raise. I didn't listen to those words that he said and think that he was deliberately being disingenuous when he said that he's just asking for a
not
raise.
at all. Nope.
But I do think that it is fair to say that he's oversimplifying it a lot, when he says that. I don't think that he, is trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes and genuinely believes that, his situation is just like you and me, when it comes to asking for a raise, because it is extremely different. He's looking to be one of the highest paid defensive players in the NFL. It's a completely different situation. So that being said, I mean, there is some oversimplification happening with what Chris Jones is, the way he's describing the situation. But I do feel for everybody involved, for the human component of this, where you could tell that it bothered Chris Jones about the thought that he's hurting his team. That it's bothered some of the players. It's probably bothered the coaching staff. I mean, their attitudes towards this, it started training camp to now. You just kind of know the human component in this, and that you're really, you're kind of splitting hairs over, several $1 million, whether you're going to be the highest paid or the second highest paid, or, whatever that is. The bottom line in all of this comes down to the fact that we have Chiefs football in less than 12 hours, and you're not going to have the best player on your defense out there. And we have no idea if and when that's going to happen. And, let's just say that week 8 is actually the realistic timeline for Chris Jones. At that point, what kind of relationship is there between Chris Jones and the organization? What kind of relationship is there between Chris Jones and his teammates, Chris Jones and the coaching staff? These are all things that I think that right now we've got to prepare ourselves for what that's going to look like in a few weeks' time, and how detrimental will it possibly be? I mean, it was one thing, and we've talked about it before, about how it's gotten kind of annoying to have to hear about the questions being asked about Chris Jones's absence all throughout training camp and preseason. Okay, that's one thing. Now we're getting into the regular season. We're getting into games that actually matter, and we're still going to have those questions.
I agree. It was very, distracting. I mean, it has been, and to me, it has been for a long time. Here's the thing, and again, I love Chris Jones. I think he's an awesome personality. I think he's one of the more entertaining guys, cool dudes, genuine dudes, great players, all of those things. And I hate when the business stuff, blends in, but it does. And the reality is, Tommy, Chris Jones is under contract. And, Chris Jones is under contract for quite a bit of money. And so it's a little bit different than, like when you see the situation for Jonathan Taylor, let's say. It's pretty easy to go to Jonathan and be like, I totally get where Jonathan Taylor's coming from here, right? Like, I totally get it. When you see, this isn't a great comparison, but you remember like Baker Mayfield played through that injury and it's like totally derailed his career. When you see stuff like that, you're like, man, I'm all player. But in this one, he's under contract, and whether he plays now or whether he plays in week 8, it doesn't matter. And this is where I think you're getting some animosity. Like, yo, dude, you sat out training camp, didn't work, nothing's happening. Now we need you, and you're under contract. Where are you? Right? Like, this isn't some, silly negotiation. This typically doesn't work out well for the players, right?
And
like,
it's also not a franchise tag situation either. So it's not like the contract is up and the Chiefs are saying, hey, we want to put the franchise tag on you. And Chris Jones is saying, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to hold out. I mean, he still is under the final year of his actual contract that he signed. And that's really what it comes down to, is that, I don't have any kind of personal animosity towards Chris Jones. I've always enjoyed watching him play. He's a fantastic player. There's no doubt about that. But watching the way that these negotiations have gone, and then seeing him yesterday in front of the cameras and the media, there was kind of a disconnect for me. Like, and he is a good guy. I'm not trying to say that he's not a good guy, but, talking about, oh, I'm just asking for a raise. And, you would do the same thing if, you wanted a raise with your employer. But you look at the actual facts and you look at the way that the negotiation has actually gone. And the fact that he is, by the way, under contract still. I'm like, okay, these two things don't actually compute in my mind. Like I can't reconcile these things together because the facts of the actual negotiation and the terms of the contract and all of that, they are what they are, and you're still holding out. And so I have a hard time like reconciling those two things together.
It's just not the same thing as we see so often. He's not being asked to be franchise tagged. He's not like, he is literally under contract, and he is, and this is to Dan Israel's point, like he's going to have to play. Right? Like if this continues, he's got to play by week 8. So what's the difference? Because the Chiefs aren't going to, they're just not going to do this. They haven't, they don't, they're not wavering here. So if that's the case, and this has become very clear, and to me it has, that this is what our offer is. Take it or leave it. If you choose to leave it, that's fine. Don't take the contract, but now it's time you're under contract to go help your team. And that's where this one's, and I think that's why you got some like emotion there in that reply, because he doesn't want to feel like he's doing this. He's being advised that this is his best play. It's not. It's not your best play. Like this is, you're not gaining any leverage. There's no more leverage to gain. Like the games have started. There will be no leverage for Chris Jones to gain at this point. Right. So also, now it's like, get out there. You're under contract.
Yeah. The other thing too, a big reason why this is not the best play for him moving forward, it might've been during training camp and it didn't end up working out. But it's not the best play now, is that why not, if you're Chris Jones, why not go out there and play to the best of your ability and try to back up the season you had a year ago with another one. So then you can go hit the free open market and make as much money as you possibly can. I'm not going to sit here and say that teams are going to be more reluctant to sign Chris Jones on the free market block after this season if he only plays half the games instead of all of them. I don't think that's really the case, but he's got the opportunity to go out there and really show the remaining teams in the NFL what kind of value he brings to them. If he can't come to a long-term contract agreement with the Chiefs right now, then play out the final year of your contract, then go hit free agency and go make as much money as you possibly can and potentially be one of the highest paid defensive players in the NFL. But this strategy right now, okay, I understood why he did it during training camp. He was trying to get a deal. I understand why he did it during preseason. Okay, what's the point? It's preseason. I get that. It's different now. We're on game day of week 1. On top of that, also, by the way, it's also banner night. They're celebrating the Super Bowl champions. And he's not going to be there. He's not, he's not going to be there. That's an issue for me. And so, you can strip away everything else, but at the end of the day, he was a major, major part of both of the Super Bowl wins for Kansas City. And he's not going to be there on the sidelines when they hang the banner for the last one. And because he's being advised that his best play is to sit out, why? You're not getting the contract you want. And you're under contract right now. Get out there, go help your team.
I don't know what else Chris Jones is going to hear that's going to change this, but they're not going to give him. They're not going to give him a contract. That's not true. They're going to give him a contract, but like what they're offering now, I don't have any doubt the Chiefs have an offer on the table, right? Dan Israel told us they've got an offer on the table, and it's a good offer. So that's it. Like that's the end of it. The season has started. There's no more leverage to gain. You're going to lose money. You might have the Chiefs losing games. Like that's it. And that's where we've gotten to the point now where I feel like you've seen Travis Kelce say something, and Andy Reid is so sick and tired of talking about it. Like the business stuff needs to happen before the season starts. At the end of the day, the season has started and you have made a commitment to this team. You're under contract. Go earn your contract. If it's going to be the end of it, and if you want to go prove the Chiefs wrong, go prove them wrong on the field. You're not going to prove them wrong and, not playing. Right. So
again, it goes back to what we talked about before, about how if this was a franchise tag situation, it would be a completely different conversation. If he had played out the end of his contract and they had been negotiating throughout the season to try to come to an extension and they couldn't do it and the numbers didn't work and then the contract is up and done and they say they want to franchise tag him to avoid free agency and he doesn't want to do that. Okay, I get it. At that point, the conversation is different because you're not under contract. You have one final year remaining in your contract and now it's a detriment, I think, to you and your future prospects, but it's also a detriment to your team and they're getting ready to play tonight.
And he's not going to be there. Like, he's just not going to be there. I assume he's not going to be there. That's tough. It's tough. That's the latest on Chris Jones. Look, he's not going to be there. They didn't get the deal done yesterday, so I don't think it's going to get done today. I think they got more pressing matters. 869-1240, your thoughts on Chris Jones. You can call into the IHOP hotline if you'd like. Congratulations again to Michael for winning our first giveaway. We'll have more giveaways coming up throughout the show. Let's take a break. When we come back, our pal Chelsea Messenger joins us. Oh, boy, do we have some bets to make tonight. Let's get into it. Tonight's game, the first NFL weekend. What about college football? Here we go. It is that time of year. We'll have Chelsea next on Sports Daily.
Also, be sure to check out the Daily Tip podcast for more of Chelsea Messenger analysis. Just search BetMGM wherever you find your podcasts.
Oh my goodness, Chelsea. It is the best day of the year for betting, I would contend, because we get the start of the NFL. We get to look to the NFL weekend. College football in full swing. We don't need to talk about Major League Baseball because I'm very, very upset about the Rangers, and it's just too fresh a wound. How are you this morning, Chelsea?
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. And it's not just the start of the NFL season. We have a lot of drama going on when we are trying to speculate on if Travis Kelce is going to play. I'm sure you guys have been talking about this, but I'm sure bettors would like to know because he is a big part of that offense.
Chelsea, do you like? It's a little strange, I think, and I could be totally wrong about this. I think we see quarterbacks move the number. Do you remember like a position player, especially a tight end, moving a number as much as this one's moved with like the ebbs and flows of the Kelce news?
Probably not a tight end, but Travis Kelce's basically a number one receiver, at least when it comes to his production. We saw Devontae Adams move a number a couple years back when he played for the Packers. I think it was maybe half a point. But you're right. Usually position players don't move the number. Cooper Kupp might be the only other one just because his target share is so crazy. And he is the only person, I think, on that Rams offense that, makes other teams quiver in their boots a little bit. But yes, it does happen, but it is very rare.
How do you feel about the over-under in this game, Chelsea? It's at 53 right now. And I know that, the question marks about Travis Kelce will probably play into that a little bit, but considering that we know that in the past, when Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes have faced off against each other, typically it's high scoring games. Are you on the over for this game or what are you thinking?
I'm definitely not playing either side because I think there are big sabotage factors on each side of the ball. Number one, do you really want to take an under the first game of the season between these two high-powered offenses? Probably not. But again, this total is so high that you've got to remember it's the first game of the season. A lot of these guys did not play much in the preseason, and usually we see defenses ahead of offenses. But we have some big glaring holes on the defense. Number one, Chris Jones. Don't know if there's been any update there, but I would imagine he's not playing in this game because he's still holding out. Also on the Lions side of the ball, their secondary was downright terrible last season. Now they have added some pieces, added a guy from the Eagles. I'm trying to remember his name, Gardner Smith, something like that, CJ Gardner or something. But anyways, their secondary was bad. It was very banged up. And also they're going against Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't think I want to take an under there. But again, that number is very, very high. So I would lean towards the under, but I'm not going to do that to myself.
Yeah, I'd lean there too. And it's more about the way I think the Lions, especially with Chris Jones out, I think they're going to try and run the ball. I mean, that's the way to beat the Chiefs. We know that the Chiefs have struggled against good running backs. They brought in David Montgomery. They drafted. I just think game script might be tough to hit 53.5. So as we look at the game, Chelsea, or player props, there's 1,000 different ways to go at this, and we'll all make more bets that are than as a responsible thing because it's first game of the year and it's fun. What else can we look at with this game as maybe some betting opportunities?
Yeah, I think you teased at this. Playing opposing running backs against the Kansas City Chiefs last year was cash money, but it wasn't playing their rushing yards. It was playing their receiving yards. So I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs, running back for the Lions today, over his receiving prop of 31.5 yards. This one's already skyrocketed. I think I got it at 27.5 last week, and we have seen a ton of money on this very talented rookie to have a big day through the air. He's the shiny new toy for the Lions. He was their first-round pick out of the University of Alabama, and their offensive coordinator has talked about this. They said, quote, "We're going to use him in ways you wouldn't imagine." Like, I don't know if he's going to play punter, but I think he's probably going to be catching some passes is what I am assuming here. He was really good at this at the University of Alabama. And I think he gets a lot of time here against the Kansas City Chiefs, who gave up the most receptions to opposing running backs last season, more than any other team in the NFL. So I'll do that. Jahmyr Gibbs over 31.5 receiving yards. You can play him for anytime touchdown at plus 135, or if you think he goes off for a big play, over 14.5 yards for his longest reception.
Chelsea, are you a big believer in the Lions overall? It kind of seems like they've been the darlings of the offseason. And of course, they ended last season on a really, really strong note. But looking right now, it looks like about 40% of the overall bets on the money line are on the Lions. So do you believe in them, not just in this game, but overall throughout the course of the season?
I think they're going to be a good team, but I don't know if I believe in the hype that is pimping them to be one of the best teams in the NFL. I still have questions about their defense. Like I said, their secondary was very banged up and also terrible last season. And also, Dan Campbell showed some signs of weakness and times where you're kind of scratching his head when he made some coaching decisions late in the game for the Lions. So I think that they're a 10-win team, but I'm not sure if they're going to win 12 games like some people are saying. And also, in the betting world, we get these numbers from certain states. It's by state. You get to see like how many people are betting on certain teams. The state of Michigan loves betting on the Lions. So you've got to remember that betting is legal in the state of Michigan, and Lions fans go all out. I think they might be a little delusional because they do this every year. Maybe it's finally the year, but this also probably has something to do with those big numbers you're seeing backing the Lions.
All right, let's look ahead to the rest of the slate on Sunday, Chelsea. What's standing out to you as opportunities? Week 1's interesting, right? Because we haven't seen any games yet. What's out there that you're loving this week?
Yeah, I'm going to hit the under 41 between the Steelers and the 49ers. Two excellent defenses, probably one of the best defenses when you look at the 49ers. We know that Nick Bosa just signed that big deal, so he will be playing. He is the reigning defensive player of the year, and they also have other guys on that team who people don't really talk about, but are flat out amazing. Fred Warner, probably one of the best linebackers in the league, two-time first-team All-Pro for a reason, and also you have two younger quarterbacks. I think that's the narrative for the Niners this year. Do we believe what we saw from Brock Purdy last season, or is it too small of a sample size? Steelers have a great defense too, led by T.J. Watt, and also a team that is known to kind of start off slow in these physical, low-scoring affairs. They have hit the under in 5 of their last 7 season openers. Also, there's some rain in the forecast for Sunday in Pittsburgh. So I will hit the under 41 between the Steelers and the 49ers.
How do you feel about the Dolphins and the Chargers? That's one of the more premier games on Sunday. The Chargers, as of right now, are about 3-point favorites. It kind of seems to me to be a pretty much heavyweight matchup to kick off the season.
Man, I was hoping you wouldn't ask about this game because I think this is one of the tougher ones to predict because you're right. Two really exciting young teams with a ton of potential. I think I'd lean towards the Chargers at home here. I think this is a team that is probably more talented on paper. I think it's still the better quarterback in Justin Herbert. And usually the problems for the Chargers don't come until, game 7, game 8, or if the game's on the line and they need to cover a big spread. So I'm sure Chiefs fans know. Chargers always play them pretty closely. I'll go with the Chargers here, but it's definitely not one of my favorite plays.
I'll tell you one of my favorites, but it feels like a trap, and it kind of stinks. The Eagles are only laying 4 against the Patriots. Now, the Patriots perceived as the worst team in the AFC East. The Eagles perceived as one of the top 2, if not the top team in the NFC. They only got better this offseason. I'm seeing 4. I'm loving the Eagles there, but it feels like a big fat trap.
Yeah, it really does. I think the only thing I could think of was Super Bowl losers, for some reason, are really terrible the week or the opening week of the next season. If you look at the numbers, they are 8-13 straight up and 6-15 against the spread in the past 21 years. I'm not sure why that is, but if you look at this matchup, I think I'd be with you. It looks like the Eagles all day, just because on both sides of the ball, this seems like the more complete team. It's not just Jalen Hurts. It's not just A.J. Brown. It's the fact that they have one of the best offensive lines in football and also one of the best defenses in all of football as well. I think the play I like maybe a little bit better is the Eagles in the first half, -2.5, just because you get them under the key number of 3. And plus, the Eagles were the best first half team in all of football last season. Does make me nervous. It's the first game of the year, but still, I do like the Eagles in some way against the Patriots.
Well, we're also going to wrap up week number 1 with just a massive Monday Night Football matchup. The Bills and the Jets, Aaron Rodgers debut. The Jets are getting plus money on the money line. Do you believe in that? Or do you think that, the Bills have been overlooked this offseason because all the hype has gone to the Jets?
Man, this one feels like a trap as well. I think so many people are going to be on the Jets, but the Bills have been a regular season wagon. I think the Bills are probably the side here. Like, that's just the gut feeling, because I want to believe in the Jets. I want Aaron Rodgers to have a great season. Look at the talent he has around him. I think Garrett Wilson's in store for a huge season. And plus, how many games did they win last year? 7. And that was with who? Zach Wilson and whoever else they had at quarterback. If that defense can come to play this season and Aaron Rodgers just does something, I don't think Aaron Rodgers even has to be great in order to, have a great season for the Jets, just because he has so much talent around him. But it is worrisome. The Bills, I think, went 3-0 against the Steelers in the preseason. It is one series. It's a preseason. But still, it kind of gut feeling says that the Bills surprised people here. I'll lean towards the Bills, but don't love it.
All right, Chelsea, what else are we seeing? What are some of your favorite bets before we let you go? NFL, college, what are your favorites this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to go Commanders -7. And the team that's trying to tank the most this season, I'm going to save the Cardinals in the first game of the year. Commanders riding high, just let go of Dan Snyder, their owner that they absolutely hated. And also, the hype for Sam Howell seems to be all the talk in DC. I think the Commanders cover pretty easily here against probably the worst team in football. I'll take the Commanders -7. And then in the college range, I think you got to look at a couple games here. I'll take the under between Iowa and Iowa State. I mean, you just when you just hear that game, you're like, okay, this game's going to be like 10-12. I'm going to hit the under there between those two teams. If Iowa can only put up 24 against Utah State, I don't think they have a great time in Iowa City. So I like those two plays.
All right, Chelsea Messenger. If you missed any of those plays, if you're just joining us, you'll be able to go to KFH Radio and listen back to it. Lots of good information. We went NFL heavy for obvious reasons. Tonight heavy. Chelsea, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. And let's do this again next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
On the line there, the host of the Daily Tip and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, Chelsea Messenger. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Also, be sure to check out the Daily Tip podcast for more of Chelsea Messenger analysis. Just search BetMGM wherever you find your podcast. So much good information there. Go back and listen. You can always get that archive. Jad puts that out in podcast form. I cannot wait for tonight. And then we'll all get mad at our bets tomorrow and then, rinse, wash, repeat, right? That's about how it goes. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State insider, joins us. We got to look back, and he's hyped about what he saw in week 1. What about week 2? What do we know about Troy? We're going to need a little scouting report from Fitz. We'll get that next on Sports Daily.
On Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
He's got all the insight on what you want to know, and maybe some of what you don't want to know. Here's K-State insider Tim Fitzgerald.
Woo, got a little sandstorm in the air here, Fitz. A really nice opening week to get things going. Of course, KFH now is where you hear K-State athletics. That was a good way to get things started. I said this earlier in the week. I'm not sure that you could have scripted it better for optimism right now in Manhattan than what we saw in that opener against SEMO.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think everything went as planned for Chris Kleiman and his coaching staff. They played a lot of players. They saw a lot of, true freshmen get on the field. I think they accomplished a lot in that game, more than just winning. They got to get a look at their depth and where they're at, and I think they feel pretty good about it.
How about, let's start with Will Howard. Obviously, we know that, he set some records and was basically did what we wanted him to do in that opening game. Didn't play the entire game. And I know we're going to talk about Avery Johnson here after a bit, but just, from the small sample size we saw from Will Howard in that opening game, any major takeaways from his play?
No, I thought it was pretty on course for where he's been. He had that one turnover when he got, an lineman whiffed on a block and got him hit right as he released the ball. So that doesn't really hang on him totally, but, I thought he was really efficient throughout the game. You give Will Howard a fairly clean pocket, he's going to find a receiver. And even if the pocket isn't clean, we saw him move around a little bit and avoid some rushes and get the ball out of his hand. So he's very confident. The team's very confident in him. Anytime you have a passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, and receiving touchdown in the first half, you probably had a pretty decent game.
I think that's, I don't want to, we'll talk just a little bit more about SEMO and then look ahead to Troy. We saw what we needed to out of the backfield. Makes everybody feel good. RJ Garcia was as advertised, so you feel good there. And then in the second half, we got Avery Johnson. Little surprising, but do we need to look into this in any other way other than, no worry about a red shirt that's not even on the table, and they're trying to get him ready for him to be a factor this year, and he ain't gonna be there 5 years anyway. Like, are you looking into that at all? To me, it tells me red shirt's not on the table at all.
No, I think it is. I think they use this game to get a good look. Now, how he performed might have removed the red shirt from the season, and that they want to get him involved. I don't know where they're headed with Avery Johnson, but I think we all saw great potential, great promise in his debut, and the ability to move around. He's really mobile. He's supposedly the third fastest guy on the team. We saw him throw the ball downfield. He's got a little bit of everything, and they got a good look at it. But he was still an oar on the depth chart with Jake Rubley. And my guess would be if they get away and they start playing pretty good football, we'll see some Jake Rubley this week. Or if, Will Howard's helmet pops off, they need to run someone on, it'll be Jake Rubley. So I think they're still kind of code number twos, but they are in far different spots. I don't think there's any doubt right now, unless Jake Rubley really ups his game, that they know the quarterback of the future, and his name's Avery Johnson.
Yeah, Fitz, I had this thought watching Avery Johnson in the second half last week, and I kept thinking, from what he can do and watching his abilities and his talent level that we've known for a long time, but seeing it in action with the Wildcats, I just thought, man, there's going to be opportunities in October into November where the Wildcats are going to need his skill set out on the field. And it doesn't take anything away from Will Howard at all and what he does. But to me, it kind of became crystal clear in just the opening matchup against SEMO, watching Avery Johnson. I thought, man, there's got to be a strategy in place or being formed with a package of plays or something with Avery Johnson that, Chris Kleiman and Colin Klein feel like he can help them out when push comes to shove in a Big 12 game when it matters the most.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, I think a lot of people shy away from the two quarterback system, but it's really not. It's a way to enable one of the best athletes on the team to get involved in your offense. That's not just playing a second quarterback to play a second quarterback. You're playing a kid because he's an extremely talented, multi-versatile athlete, and that's exactly what they probably would design for Avery. I think if you want to call it the Wildcat or whatever, I mean, like I said, they also put on film that Will Howard can catch the ball, so he becomes a more legitimate receiver out there when they put Avery on the field. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see if K-State gets away from Troy, what happens. If I'm right, they'll put Rubley in this week, or if they go back to Avery, I think you guys are right. They're not looking to redshirt. They're getting them ready to play as much as possible.
I mean, Fitz, let's be real. Avery Johnson ain't going to be in Manhattan for 5 years.
Not if he builds off of what he showed. I mean, if he takes a big step back or gets injured, or
That's
but
true.
if he
But if that happens, the red shirt's determined without. That's not a decision to be made. It'll make itself.
That's exactly it. And Chris Kleiman's brought that up. And, anymore with the transfer portal and that kind of stuff, you don't know how long kids are going to be around. But also, there's so many injuries in college football. Just let them play. If they're good enough to play, put them out there on the field. I think, he's by far the only freshman that is in that group. They got a couple linebackers that they probably can't redshirt, and some other guys running around, because this was a really good incoming freshman class. So, but I think they're to the point now, just let them play and it'll sort itself out. They're not good enough to help in enough games. They'll play 4 or fewer games in redshirt. And if they are, you just saved a redshirt for if there happens to be a catastrophic injury down the line.
What was your takeaway, Fitz, on the running game? DJ Giddens averaged over 8 yards a carry. He rushed for 128 yards. Treshaun Ward got into the end zone. So kind of that timeshare that we had talked about, but just overall, the kind of the two-headed monster running the football for K-State. Any big takeaways from that?
That's going to be effective. I mean, I think they left it pretty generic last week. While they seemed to open up the passing game a little bit, heck, they had a throwback to the quarterback. Running seemed pretty, predictable in how they went about it. And DJ Giddens was really good at it. He got more opportunities. I think we'll see more of Treshaun Ward and maybe a little bit more of what he can do in this game. I think they kept some things back to, put it out there on the field later down the road. But I think they're in good shape. They feel good about it. And I really liked what I saw from the two guys. Are they Deuce Vaughn? No, but they scored 45 points and moved the ball pretty well. So it's a lot of promise to that running game with those two guys back there.
They did it against SEMO, Fitz. Tim Fitzgerald, publisher, gopowercat.com. You can find him on social media at Life of Fitz. They did it against SEMO. Troy's going to be better than SEMO. I don't think there's any question about that. Probably a lot better than SEMO. So, as we got that one out of the way, everything was, all roses and sunshine and all these, wonderful things happen. What are we expecting out of Troy? Because as I understand it, they are a significant step up from SEMO.
They really are. I mean, they're the Sun Belt champs. I have a great deal of respect for how the Sun Belt plays football, their brand of football. Very athletic conference. They're going to bring in some dudes and a lot of confidence because they know how to win. They've won a lot on the road. They had maybe a little bit more problems with Stephen F. Austin last weekend than what we thought, but they ended up with a fairly comfortable victory. They'll come in with a great identity, a great sense of self-purpose, and that they're good enough to win this game because they are. I don't know if they're as good as Tulane turned out to be last year, but as our Ryan Wallace at Go Power Cat pointed out, they might be a little bit more like Nevada from a few years ago when they come in as one of the Mountain West picks and absolutely get throttled. So we'll see how good Troy is in a competitive situation coming into what should be a really, really fun environment on Saturday with that 11 a.m. kick.
So Fitz, I was kind of surprised when I saw this on the broadcast over the weekend against SEMO. I didn't realize that Mel Kiper, I believe, has Ben Sinnott as like his 3rd overall tight end on his big board for the NFL draft. He caught 5 passes, 100 yards. We know that he is going to be an integral part of this offense, but I guess I didn't realize how high up he's projected to be an NFL caliber tight end. What's it going to take for him? And I know that he's already being projected at a high level, but what's it going to take for him to be? He probably already is one of the best tight ends in America, but to be the best tight end in America.
Yeah, he's going to have to, really put on display his catch and run ability. We know he can catch the ball. He's a big physical guy. He runs good routes. And he does have a high level of athletic ability. But I think the next step is catching and advancing the ball, maybe even finding ways to score touchdowns. I kind of look at this as I've said this before, a mini Mahomes and Kelsey relationship between Howard and Sinnott, and we saw it on display in game one. I think it'll only continue to blossom. Look, if he's a tight end getting 4 or 5 catches a game, he's going to be, way up the tight end charts. But he also makes tough catches, downfield catches. These aren't little dink and dunks, as a release valve. He's down the field. So if he continues to get into the end zone, I think that's going to really put him on the map for people.
Fitz, great for K-State. KU got a nice win. Not a great weekend for the Big 12 overall. What did you make of the opening weekend for the Big 12? Texas Tech with a really disappointing loss. West Virginia looks like they could be no bueno this year. Baylor with maybe the most stunning loss of the first week. Texas wasn't dominant necessarily against. Like, what did you make of the Big 12 opening weekend?
Now that I love college football, I mean, you just got to go out every weekend. It doesn't matter about who your recruits were or where your rankings are. You got to go play football. And we saw that across the board with the SEC losing some crucial games all weekend. Yeah, I was most stunned like you with Baylor. Not that they just lost, but they kind of got dominated at home by Texas State. In hindsight, losing to Wyoming for Tech isn't a stunner. I guess I'm more stunned that they were ill prepared for the game. They just didn't look like they were, understanding that Wyoming's a pretty decent football program. And look, that kind of reminds me of the Tulane game. It's like one that maybe they learned a lesson from, and they'll rally and have a really good season. Apparently, the Big 12 is inviting in the rejuvenated version of Colorado football. So I think, you can look at the TCU game 2 ways. That TCU lost. They played for a national championship last season and now have lost, 3 out of 4. And but Colorado's coming into the conference next year and looks pretty good. So, look, the 4 new schools in the Big 12 won, the 4 Pac-12 schools coming to the Big 12 won. And I think that's, a really nice addition to the conference. That this is, again, going to be the most entertaining and competitive conference in all of college football.
Are you officially buying into Coach Prime and the Buffaloes program after watching that TCU game, or is it a good story, but we're going to see them kind of come back to earth?
I think they'll come back to earth in this first season. I think, they caught TCU off guard, that nothing was really on film. I don't know, new coordinators and stuff. I don't know how much was those coordinators, how much was, a mashup of what all the coaches wanted. They have a really high level of athlete. Obviously, Travis Hunter might be the best athlete in college football. Dylan Edwards is spectacular. But Dylan Edwards is a perfect example of what I thought the coaches did the best in that game. He didn't play the whole game. He went in to do things. They knew what their talent was and how to use that talent. Whether it was a swing pass out of the backfield or get him into space, they did a marvelous job of playing to their skills. Now, as the season progresses, people are going to force them to play to their weaknesses. If they see more and more things that can be exploited, Colorado's going to have to answer that. And obviously, giving up that many points, they've got some questions on defense. But, boy, they're far down the road compared to what I think most of us expected. They look not really good, but really fun. I think they could be a 6-6 level team unless they figure out how to fix those weaknesses as they go. And they could get up into that 8-9 win area. But boy, that was impressive. And I'm happy for Dylan Edwards. He found the right school for him, and he's thriving out there.
I'll tell you what they remind me of, Fitz. Not in the flair, but I think it'll be a lot like KU was last year, right? Where they clearly are better than people expected. They have some really talented players, just like KU did last year with Jalen Daniels. Yeah. And I think they'll get into a lot of shootouts with people, whether they win them or not. They're going to be entertaining to watch all year.
That's a great comparison. There is a lot of comparisons there because it was KU's defense that, caused them some issues last year. They had a really good passing game and Devin Neal at running back. I kind of like that comparison a lot. And I haven't looked at their Pac-12 schedule to see when the better teams start hitting their schedule, but they'll run into some challenges. Yeah, they're going to run it. And it looks like the Pac-12, now that the Pac-12 is collapsing, they decided to go undefeated the first weekend. So I guess they realize that maybe they should play better college football.
Isn't that crazy? Like I thought about this last week. The Pac-12 this could be the best year for the Pac-12 in a long, long time. I'd heard that from, I think it was Phil Steele told me that, like the Pac-12 is going to be great this year. Could you imagine with all the realignment if it had happened 1 year later? Like if the Pac-12 is really fantastic this year, I think they would have been more prone to get a TV deal. Timing is insane in all of this.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. They haven't played a competitive, entertaining brand of football across the conference. Had too many weak teams, so that means too many games that people didn't want to watch. And yeah, if they had this version last year, they're in a much better situation. But if they had this version last year, the problem is that leadership probably would have thought, oh, we're not worth $50 million at school, we're worth $80 million at school. And they would have screwed it up even further. But yeah, I think it's good news for the Big 12 that, maybe these teams that they're bringing in, Colorado and Arizona in particular are on the uptick. Utah's always been good. Arizona State, I'm still not very sold on.
Well, yeah, I didn't pay any attention to Arizona State. All right, Fitz, you guys will have tons of preview content. What's up at GoPowerCat.com right now?
And we got so much stuff going on. We've got our PowerCat pregame podcast. It's available now both in podcast form or on YouTube. You can go to GoPowerCat and find both versions there. We'll continue to roll out our pregame coverage at GoPowerCat. We'll have the Friday walkthrough video and podcast available at midnight. So just a lot of stuff going. We're doing a lot of video stuff this year, and I think people really enjoy it. But lots of written content too from our staff, and it's about 4, 5, 6 pieces of content a day right now. So there's a lot of coverage at GoPowerCat.
All right, we'll look forward to it. You'll, of course, hear the game, early kick Saturday right here with us on KFH. Fitz, enjoy it. Enjoy being at home here for a little while, and we'll see if they can repeat a near-perfect performance in week 1.
Thank you, boys. Great to talk to you.
There goes Tim Fitzgerald. You can find his work, GoPowerCat.com. You can find him on social media at Life of Fitz for some great content, entertaining as always. We appreciate that. We'll have more on the Wildcats tomorrow. We'll have Wyatt Thompson in. We'll come back. We'll talk a little KU. They play tomorrow, Tommy, and some news you just unrolled as there's some reporting on Jalen Daniels. We'll get to that next as we roll forward. It's Albracht and Castor. Let's give something away on the way out. Let's do, Tommy, some NHL tickets here. NHL preseason game, the ICT Ice Classic, Coyotes, Blues, Saturday, September 23rd, 7 o'clock at Intrust Bank Arena. You can get some tickets right now. Jad will get the second caller hooked up on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll come back. A little KU talk next. Welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Glad to be here with you on this Thursday edition. Thursday's always wild and crazy. Congratulations to Matt for winning those NHL tickets. Blues, Coyotes, enjoy it. We'll give away some HTO before the end of the show here as well, so stay tuned for the opportunity to win that. Tommy, KU in the news. First of all, let's just for a second, this smoke in the air. Like, we've had, wildfire smoke blow in the past. And I know it's dangerous for like people with allergies, and I don't have any of that stuff. I have never in my life been as affected by the smoke in the air as I was yesterday, and I think even a little bit into this morning. And like pretty universal. Just about everybody I know, my throat burns a little bit. Like it's impactful. They're going to play it. I saw a sunrise picture from Arrowhead this morning. It's red, which means there's smoke in the air, and I'm like, man, if that was hitting me yesterday like that, if that stuff doesn't clear. This smoke could be a factor tonight.
Yeah, you and I also both have been dealing with illnesses the last week or so, which I was thinking about this before the show started today. It's just it's a cruel joke that you and I both had colds like the week of the first NFL game, right? Like we could have had it in July when there was nothing going on in the calendar, but you got it first, then I got it. I'm dealing with like just the drainage in my throat and trying to clear my throat. And then of course the smoke in the air and all of that doesn't help. And so like, I'm popping like cough drops and like, you name it, like just trying to get it like out of my system because we've got football this weekend.
I know. And by the way, like, I feel like the entire world is sick. Like if you just like look around and you just observe, like you're like, everybody looks a little bit off. And it's the petri dish of the fall with kids and all that stuff, I'm sure. But yeah, that smoke is a factor, man. And I just wonder as I see that sunrise picture at Arrowhead, I'm like, I wonder if this stuff lingers. I think it's supposed to clear today. So there is some relief. But of all the days we've had the haze, and we've dealt with this before on these wildfires up to the northwest, like that one yesterday was the first time I like could feel it. And I feel really bad for the folks that have to deal with that all the time. All right, KU tomorrow night, Tommy. The question's Jalen Daniels. They're 3-point favorites against Illinois. I have stayed away from this game in large part. I'm not going to touch it until I know what's happening with Jalen Daniels. I probably still won't, because even if Jalen Daniels starts at this point, how much is he going to play? What's the latest here? Because there's been some reporting this morning on this.
Yeah, so Pete Thamel from ESPN reported that Jalen Daniels is expected to play tomorrow night against Illinois. The staff, apparently, according to Thamel, has still not determined if Daniels or backup Jason Bean will actually start the game. But all week long, Lance Leipold has indicated that Jalen Daniels has got more reps than he's gotten in a long time, kind of trending towards being able to play in this game. That's important. I mean, you go from playing Missouri State, playing an FCS opponent, to a Big Ten opponent in Illinois. And so you want to have your starting quarterback at least ready to go to play somewhat. But again, we don't know for sure if Daniels is going to start the game, but it does sound like he's expected to at least get in there and play.
But again, like this one's different, right, than Missouri State. This is a Power 5 opponent. I think there's more pressure for Jalen Daniels to play. This will be a really interesting test to see like that tight back. Because again, and we've pointed this out this week too, like it goes back. Lance Leipold mentioned that he's dealt with this before. And that's what I keep sticking on, right? Like, has he dealt with this before to this severity? So he's going to just play through it and be fine? Or is this a bigger version of what he's dealt with in the past? And if he has, like, is he ever not going to deal with it? So I don't really know how to approach expectations tomorrow. Like I don't know whether I expect KU to win. I have no idea. And to be fair, I don't know a whole lot about Illinois, but like, I just don't know how to realistically gauge what we think should happen with KU tomorrow in a game like this, when we have absolutely no idea what to expect with Jalen Daniels, whether he starts or not. Like, that's the first question, right? Does he start the game? And then the second question becomes, does he play a whole game? Can he play a whole game? I don't think, like, we keep seeing this chatter about a backup. Like, okay, well, do they come up with like a package of plays? Like, I I can't get a feel for this early season KU stuff because of Jalen Daniels. I got nothing.
My gut tells me, and I don't have any proof on this at all, my gut tells me that he starts the game and that he plays the full game. And we probably see Jason Bean in there a little bit, but I would be surprised if his back situation today is any different than it was a week ago. I think the only difference is the opponent that the Jayhawks are playing. The difference between Missouri State and Illinois. Like, in my mind, that's basically it. They didn't have to have him last week against Missouri State. They're going to have him against Illinois moving forward. So in my mind, I think all it was, I think he's still got the same back issue. It's probably exactly the same as it's been and exactly the same as it's going to be moving forward. I just think that they're at a point now in the season where they got to have him. I mean, you play your opening FCS opponent, then you move on and you have higher quality opponents. You got to get him ready and you got to have him go. So I think that that's basically what it is. My gut tells me that. Again, I have no proof on that, but I think we're going to see him start. I think we're going to see him play.
But if it is a back issue that lingers, how should we approach expectations for KU this year? Like, I know that, we all have expectations. We want them middle of the pack. We want them above 500 and all these things. But, like, what if they don't have Jalen Daniels, a full version of Jalen Daniels here? Like,
I think they will. I think they will because, again, like the indication from what Lance Leipold has said is that this is something that Jalen Daniels has dealt with his entire career, right? And so I think, in my mind, and the way that I read between the lines on all of this and my inference from what Lance Leipold is saying is that this is nothing different than what he's had in the past. We might not have known about it.
He played last year. It's the fact that he didn't play that gets me a little bit.
Against Missouri State, it would be different in my mind if he didn't play tomorrow night. Like, if they held him out against a Big Ten opponent, then at that point, okay, like this might be a little bit more severe than what we thought. And it's probably a little bit
I think
different.
My point is, like, they didn't hold him out last year. If it's the same thing as it was last year, he didn't miss games until he hurt his shoulder. So that's why I'm not totally convinced that even if he's been dealing with it for a long time. But at the very beginning
of last season, I remember all the way back to the beginning of last season, there were questions about if it was going to be Jalen Daniels or Jason Bean. Like, who is going to be the lead guy, right? It's different. Like, Jalen Daniels is the guy now. He is the QB1. Sure. And so I think that in the coaching staff's mind last week, it was, okay, we're playing Missouri State. We don't have to have Jalen. We can rest him. We can get him ready to go for Illinois and moving forward. Let's let Jason Bean go out there and lead the team. I think that's what it was. So, I mean, it's a different situation now than it was a year ago at this time. I don't see, there's nothing to me that indicates that this is going to be a situation. It might linger throughout the season, but unless it gets substantially worse, I think we're going to see Jalen Daniels as normal as we saw him last year when he was quote unquote healthy.
I hope so. But that news did come out. We'll see on Jalen Daniels again. Reminder, they play a Friday night college game, which just absolutely drives me nuts. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It'll be a blackout though. So if you're going up there, make sure you've got some black. It will be a cool atmosphere. And, there's something, I guess, to taking the stage by yourself, but you really are limiting yourself a little bit because of high school football when you try to play these games on Friday nights.
You're getting primetime on ESPN too, though. You've got a Big 12, Big 10 matchup. I mean, that's kind of cool.
I get it nationally. But I just play it literally any other night. I mean, I guess not tonight up against the NFL, but Friday night college football, just it's okay. It's all right. Then and KU will get the stage to themselves, and hopefully Jalen Daniels plays and everything will be good and fine and dandy and wonderful and everything else. All right, let's give something away here on the way to break. Let's do some HTO. You've got 2 free iced tea cards, more than 25 flavors. These will be good for either location in Wichita, either west at 13th and Tyler, east at 21st and 127th, or they'll be good starting next Friday in Derby. There is a new Derby location opening up, and grand opening will happen on the 15th, so you'll be able to use these cards there as well. 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline on the way out. Jad will get our first caller hooked up with 2 free iced tea cards to HTO. Tommy and I will come back. We'll have more Sports Daily on this Thursday edition right after this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is game time tonight. You can hear Chiefs-Lions on KNSS. If you want the Chiefs radio call, pregame coverage begins at 6 o'clock. You can hear the national broadcast right here on KFH at 7 o'clock. Lots of options for you. We'll have the Chris Kleiman show for K-State football. That's at 6 o'clock here on KFH. So lots of different options. We'll get into that a little bit more, just a little bit. Tommy, let's talk about this game. Let's start to preview this game. We attacked sort of the news items about it, which of course is some Travis Kelce news, which is just that he's questionable. We kind of expected that. I say this again. I do think it being questionable is a best case scenario, because yesterday the Chiefs could have absolutely said out, would have been one option, or doubtful even. They said questionable. And I think you're hearing some things. Again, just gut feeling, I think he's going to play tonight. And maybe that's me optimistically hoping he will for fantasy football's sake. I don't know. But I do think we'll see him out there. Let's talk about this game. If Kelce's there, it obviously changes what the Chiefs do offensively. I don't think it changes what the Lions do, though. I think the Lions are going to try to establish the run. They brought in David Montgomery. I think we're going to see a lot of both Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Chelsea was right on with Gibbs as a receiver. The Lions have it's like the worst kept secret in the world right now on how they want to use him. And the reality is, Tommy, they don't really have a choice, right? Jameson Williams is suspended. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a superstar, but has been a little hobbled here in the preseason, and they don't have a lot of depth there. They kind of got to use, Gibbs in that role a little bit.
Yeah, they've really invested in Jahmyr Gibbs too with that draft capital, right? And so like he's going to be their premier guy. I know they brought in David Montgomery, and we're going to see some David Montgomery for sure, but it's the Jahmyr Gibbs show. And he's a talented running back in a variety of different ways. And so, yeah, I think they're going to use him early. I think they're going to use him often. One of my favorite bets of the entire game is a Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown, which is actually right now at plus 140. So you are getting plus money on that. It's not great value, but I think it is fairly safe that they're going to try to find a way to get him into the end zone.
I think I took a bonus bet because I didn't love any of the odds on the touchdown scores. I think I threw some at Sky Moore just out of opportunity, right? And he was only plus 200. So I didn't love any of those, quite frankly. The first touchdown is a little bit different. I'm not quite ready for that yet. But I do think, I think it's going to go under. I think it's going to go under because I think the Lions want to script it that way. And, the Chiefs, I'm very curious in their offense, and obviously Travis Kelce will impact this, but again, like spreading the ball out, utilizing wide receivers as running backs, all kinds of these different things. I don't know how explosive, I think the Chiefs offense is going to be phenomenal this year, but explosive, well, time's got to tell on that. So I just think both of these teams could have long, extended type drives that have pushed me kind of toward that under a little bit. And again, it's not because I think the offenses will struggle. I don't think either offense is going to struggle. I just think the game script is going to lend itself to longer sustained drives than quick striking, touchdown, really fast kinds of drives.
On top of that, I know that you don't love the value, and really neither do I on the anytime touchdown scores. However, I did build a same game parlay. It's a very, very simple same game parlay, but it's an anytime touchdown from Jahmyr Gibbs and an anytime touchdown from Isaiah Pacheco. And I like that because Pacheco is a full go. If Travis Kelce is hobbled, I think we're going to see Pacheco carry the ball quite a bit and try to get into the end zone. So if you combine both of those anytime touchdown scores, you do get plus 370 on that, which I do like that a lot. And so I did build that very simple same game parlay. It's just a 2-leg parlay. I'm not trying to go crazy on this or anything. I do like that value with that because I think that the Lions are going to want to feature Jahmyr Gibbs, and the Chiefs may not have a choice but to feed Isaiah Pacheco pretty often also in this game.
I think David Montgomery's rushing over is interesting too. I don't think they brought him in for nothing. I think the Lions are interesting. They've got it was scoring all those points and stuff last year, and this is why I don't know if I believe in them I think offensively and stylistically they want to run the ball and they want to feature running backs even after trading away DeAndre Swift. However, I just don't know if their defense is going to be able to let them do that. And that's the big question I have with the Lions and why I have such a hard time predicting the same amount of success some people have is because I just don't buy their defense. And, it's going to be better than it was a year ago, but especially early in the year because it was one of the worst ever. I like the Chiefs to cover tonight, Tommy, whether it's at, 4.5 where we've seen it, 6.5 where it was kind of outright. I do like the Chiefs to cover. I think this is be one of the few opportunities you get the Chiefs within a touchdown this year. They're not a great covering. They're not a great betting team, Tommy. Like in the last couple of years, they don't cover a lot because it's skewed a little bit. But I think this is one of the few opportunities you can get them without such a big number. And so I am going to take the Chiefs to cover tonight.
I'm going to go on the record right now, and we'll revisit this tomorrow to see how it all turns out. I think the Chiefs win by double digits. I think they win by 10 or more in this game.
Even if Kelce doesn't go?
Yep. I've talked about it before. I fully am not on board with the Lions. In fact, we talked about it yesterday. I've got the Lions to miss the playoffs. Again, I don't think that they're a bad football team. I just don't think they're as great as everybody has wanted to pile on that they are during this offseason. There's been a lot of distractions in the narrative for Kansas City in this offseason, whether it's Chris Jones or now Travis Kelce. A lot of drama, a lot of distractions. But the one thing that stays the same, that's the constant, is Patrick Mahomes. And what he does in opening regular season games. He's been outstanding in every single opening game in the regular season during his entire career. I think the Chiefs win by 10 or more. So I've got them to cover. I was perfectly fine with having them to cover at 6.5 also. Now that the line has dropped to 4.5, man, jump on board that all day long.
I'm with you. I have them there. The one thing that's interesting, because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid with extra time to prepare and all those things has been just so lethal. The Travis Kelce factor, because those things that they script in and game plan and why they're so lethal all changed 2 days before the game. So a lot of that, scripting and getting prepared is going to change. The timing on the Kelce thing is what's interesting. Had this happened early, or if he was, continuously nursing something they knew about, but they weren't prepared to have to deal with this before about 36 hours ago, or whatever the amount of time is. So that does change what they've been preparing for, which is a little bit of a factor.
Here's the other thing from a betting perspective that I'm going to do is, if you teased up the spread back to where it originally was at -6.5, you're going to get plus money on the Chiefs. 4.5 to 6.5. I mean, you're still within that range of between a field goal and a touchdown. So I feel like those 2 points, you could easily tease that back up to -6.5, still be under that touchdown, and get plus money on the Chiefs.
Well, I mean, if you ain't double digits, tease it up to 9.5.
Wow, true. But I mean, I think that if you at least want to get it back to where it originally was, you're going to get plus money at that point and beyond. I mean, you could tease it all the way up to 9.5 and get, better value that way. But if you want to at least get it back to where it was before, like right now, I'm looking on DraftKings plus 117 for the Chiefs -6.5.
It is the Lions have a lot to play for here, and they have a coach that loves the emotion of the game, it feels like, right, with Dan Campbell. I do think that the Lions will have their hair on fire. Now, whether they're talented enough for that to be a big factor, I think that's the question with the Lions. But emotionally, I think that they are going to be jacked for this game. They nobody in the world would have thought they would have been on this stage tonight, right? In the NFL season opener, we've got the Detroit Lions. The only time the Lions have gotten the stage historically in recent years is when they get to go get shelled on Thanksgiving, because they get a game on Thanksgiving, right? Like, this is an opportunity for a franchise that has deserved better than it's gotten. And I think that they know that. I think Dan Campbell has a good understanding of that. And I think he's an old school guy that's absolutely going to stick that right up on the bulletin board and have his guys so fired up that I'm taking the Chiefs. I don't think it's going to decide the game. That's why I would be a little hesitant on like a double digit win, because I do think in the emotional world, the Lions have an opportunity that they haven't had in a long, long time. And I do think they'll take advantage of that. And I'm just, I think it's not all that. With Dan Campbell, we see the emotion and we see that stuff, and that's what we love about him. But they played really well down the stretch last year. They're well prepared. They executed all those things that, at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you where you need to go. I'm not totally in on the Lions this year, just on the roster itself. But I do think that they'll step up to the moment, and we'll get a good game tonight. We almost always do, right? We almost always get good games in these openers. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this game. This has felt like a really long offseason, especially if you're a Chiefs fan, as you've had like this Chris Jones thing lingering. Like, at some point, you finally get to say, enough, let's play. And by the way, I guess we're hearing that Chris Jones will be there in some capacity tonight.
Yeah, so Anthony Sherman was on local radio in Kansas City, and he said that Chris Jones will be at the stadium in street clothes. So obviously the banner ceremony is happening. That's probably why he's there. I don't know what kind of distraction that's going to be. I'm not sure what the teammates are going to think about that he's there in street clothes and not playing.
His teammates will be
but
happy.
That's the report.
His teammates will be happy he's there.
You could easily throw on pads and go out there and play.
If David Montgomery has 150 rushing yards.
Yeah.
They might feel a little different after the game, but I think they'll be happy to see him before. It's an interesting situation. I hope it works itself out because I hate it because I love the player and I love his role in the franchise and the locker room and all of these things. And I hate that it's happening. It's annoying is what it is. As a fan, right? I get it. You handle your business, do whatever you want, even though I think he's making a bad decision. 869-1240 is the IHOP hotline. Congratulations to Jared for winning some HTO. Matt won some NHL tickets today. Michael won some movie tickets to Expendables 4. All kinds of giveaways. Will continue that. On the show tomorrow, we're going to have Wyatt Thompson, the voice of the K-State Wildcats, come in. We're going to have Matt Henderson to talk a little high school football from Ketchick, Kansas. Excited about that. And we're going to make picks. We've been working this for a couple of days now. We are going to have Paul Savage back in on Fridays to make some picks. I believe Paul is our defending pick champion, which is, had me losing sleep all off season. So we're going to take that title back from Paulie, but we'll have that tomorrow as well. Jam-packed Thursdays and Fridays. Cannot wait for the fall. Cannot wait for football season. So happy it's here. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll tell you what's on tap on the networks today. It is a busy night on the networks. We'll get that recapped for you and put a bow on this Thursday edition. Albracht, Castor, Chad Chambers producing it, Sports Daily, and we'll be right back. that's it. That's a Thursday. We get Chiefs football tonight. You can hear it two different ways. You can hear the Chiefs radio call on KNSS, 6 o'clock. You're home for Kansas City Chiefs football. You can also hear the national call at 7 o'clock here on KFH with a little Chris Kleiman radio show pregame appetizer. If you choose to go that way, Wildcat fans, that starts at 6 here on KFH. Jim Rome after us, Bob and Jeff locally 2 to 4. Glad to be here with you. That's it. We're going to have football to talk about tomorrow in the NFL and a Chiefs game to boot. I'm ready. Tommy, you ready?
I'm so excited. Can't wait until tomorrow. Go Chiefs.
Let's do it. Here we go. For Jad Chambers, for Tommy Castor, I'm Jacob Albracht. We'll have it for you. See you then.